cube. Basically, a cube where you decide the outcomes of your own coin flips. The only exception being status conditions and stuff. Really, really fun cube. Actually, going to be our next Cube League cube coming up next week. I am joined with none other than Best Pal Al, the Cube League, the Cube Builder. What's going on, Al? How's it going?
It's going well. Excited to be here to help commentate this draft.
Yeah, I'm really interested. I'm going to be interested throughout the draft hearing your insight on just like the thought process for a lot of these lines because it's some really cool stuff that's going on here. A lot of different cards you don't normally see just because of the added coin flip effect. We actually have two pods going on of 7, which is really cool. Really happy to see more people coming out joining the event here. We're going to be following pod 1. We have 7 different players we're going to be looking at. Al, anything you're looking to see as far as players' decks that they're going to draft? Any lines you're interested in seeing how they perform? I know you're making changes to this cube constantly.
Um, I'm just excited to see what people come up with.
Right.
The cube's not been drafted too many times. I think 5 or 6 now. So there's still a lot of experimentation going on. But there are a few interesting tricks that people can get up to.
Yeah.
Um, so will be interesting to keep an eye on those and see what happens.
So for anyone who's not familiar with Cube, may join us for the first time. What this is basically just a custom set of cards for 630 cards in this draft that are predetermined, but they're randomized into these packs of 15 divided amongst the 7 players. So each player is going to be seeing a set of packs here in this Google Sheets document that is built for drafting, and they get to take a card each time. And at the end of the draft, they're going to have 90 cards to build their decks out of. So it's a different way to play Pokemon. I mean, the rules are still the same, but you have to think more on the fly. And we're gonna be looking at Mysterious Player first, picked himself up a Juniper. I can't see what the rest of his pack is, but I'm sure it will load here shortly. I did want to ask though, like, what was the main thought process, or what really inspired you to build a cube all around coin flips? Because that's something you don't normally see, like a mechanic utilized in this way.
So the main, I guess, inspiration for a cube like this was I was fed up of games being decided by coin flips. So when it comes down to, oh, if I flip heads here, I win the game. If I flip tails, I lose the game. That generally doesn't feel great. So I figured, why not remove that element um, almost entirely? There's still a
Mm-hmm.
few coin flips when you're doing status conditions like confusion or sweep checks between turns. So it's really just to try and give players control over the game. That was the main thought process behind that.
Yeah, I know this has been one I've drafted before in test runs of this, and I thought that was really cool that you have a lot more say in how your deck works. Because normally you see like queen flips effects, and they're very much high rolly, and they're meant to be like this you know luck driven part of the game that can be fun, but it sometimes can lead to some very unfortunate effects, and it really does harm the playability of some cards. But in this cube in particular, I mean that whole effect is pretty much negated because we see lots of cards being able to just really utilize their full potential here. So I'm definitely a huge fan of this cube and really excited to see what players build here. But I guess we start talking about the draft. Mysterious Player drafting still pretty much a lot of consistency. I apologize for some of the cards not loading in, but you can see the description of these cards here to see what's in the pack. First 2 picks, Juniper and Professor's Birch Observation. Some good supporters. Now we're seeing a Wishful Baton here. Wishful Baton, definitely a nice pickup for keeping a lot of energy in play. We do see passing up the computer search though. So Al, with the added coin flip effects, cards like Pokeball become really, really great search over cards like Ultra Ball. Do you think like that influences like the quality of stuff like Comp Search or Ultra Ball in that sense?
Um, there is a lot of consistency support in the items in this cube. So there aren't you won't find that in supporters so much. There's no Trevor. You won't get any Pokemon searching supporters. All the Pokemon search is in items, and there are a lot of them. So I think getting powerful tools like Wishful Baton that makes a lot of sense because that's an effect you're not going to be able to pick up elsewhere in your draft. There's only 2 of those in the draft. Whereas for a card like Computer Search, obviously it's still a great card, but there's a lot of consistency already, so it's not necessarily as important.
Yeah, I could see that. I feel
Um,
like the decks in this cube can be really consistent just on their own, just having like access to like a lot of the powerful like search cards like Timer Ball and Pokeball. But I do want, it's kind of like a, so there are a few cards in this cube like Shiftry and Malamar that are gonna slow down your Queen Flips. Do you think as a drafter you're thinking about those cards in your matchups?
I think players should be thinking about those cards. So in case people don't know what those cards do, there's a Malamar and a Shiftry where they have abilities where if they're the active Pokemon, all of your opponent's coin flips are tails. So if you build a deck where all your attacks are built around flipping heads on your coin flips, cards like Crobat especially, they flip loads of heads and do damage for each head. If you come across one of those decks, your deck isn't going to be very good. So you need to have this sort of balance where you've got these powerful coin flip cards, but you've also got a backup sort of attacker to deal with these Shiftries and Malamars in case you come across those. So you can't just full greed on the coin flip.
Yeah, that's like actually one of the coolest things about this cube is that like there is that learning curve as well as learning how to manage, I guess, like how many coin flips, like how reliant is your coin flips going to be, and can you deal with those kind of stuff? I know like when I drafted this, I drafted like attackers that were all coin flips, and I found myself like I could have drafted like a little bit more conservatively and not been as punished, but going like full greed, it definitely is kind of it's something you have to leverage, which is a really interesting way to think about it. To me, honestly, it reminds me of when Garbodor from Guardians Rising was introduced to the format, where you got it did 20 damage for each item card in your discard pile. So the decks at the time were built to just be full blast, and you basically ran through your deck, played a ton of items. But when that card got released, it was an immediate shift, and you had to leverage the amount of items you're playing versus how punished can you be by this card. And I think the Malamars and the Shiftries add that aspect to this cube where, yeah, you can play all of the coin flip effects that you want, and and there's nothing wrong with that, but you do have to consider like how is that going to affect your matchup against some of these more prominent cards that could be in like a lot of different decks. So I really like that aspect that you added with those.
Yeah, I definitely wanted there to be a reason to pick Ultra Ball over Pokeball. I know it sounds crazy if Pokeball's flipping heads, but there will be situations where Ultra Ball perhaps is the better pick. Um, Especially some decks they appreciate the discard synergy as well.
Right.
Um, you need to discard two cards in your hand, usually energy, so you can accelerate those into play with other effects. Um, so it's hard to find a balance and not just have, oh, this is the best card in the cube. You always pick this when you see it. There needs to be, I think, to make a draft interesting, always a decision to be made.
Yeah, and that's what I think that's what makes the cube different every time you come down to draft it. Just because you have to you're learning through like, okay, maybe you got punished last time for playing like all of these effects. Maybe you think a little bit harder about like between like a dual ball and like a level ball, and like it allows you to, and I think like you said, it gives a ton of value to those cards, which I think is great. I do want to talk about Mysterious Player's draft so far. I mean, he is staying pretty open here, which is what you want to see. But we are seeing him pick up some really powerful cards, just like good cards that will allow him to go into different lines later on. We did see him pick up a copy of Shiftry EX. One of the good shift, I mean, all the Shiftries I think are really nice together. Has that skill hack attack that lets you look at your opponent's hand and copy the attack of a Pokemon in their hand. That's either whether it's basic, whether evolution, and you don't have to worry about the energy cost. It also has Dredge, which is 60 to each Pokemon. I think 60, and then also does 60 damage to each Pokemon on the bench that has the same name. So if there's two, let's just say there's two Malamars, one on the active, one on the bench, it would do 60 to both. That's kind of a neat card. So like Shiftry as a line has that. I know we've seen in previous drafts, like I think was Willie Alza drafted that line together. Do you see Shiftry often doing that, like working itself as one line, or do you see it teched into maybe different archetypes?
I think from what we've seen so far, it's usually just been like a pure focused Shiftry deck. The Shiftries themselves don't rely on coin flips to be effective, so you don't have to worry about running into like the Malamar deck. All your attackers will still work. Um, and they do some good stuff. So one of the Shiftries, like we mentioned, turns off your opponent's coin flips, so they'll all be tails. And it also has an attack where if you have the same number of cards in your hand as your opponent, the defending Pokemon will be confused. And then obviously, because their coin flips are always tails, they're going to be forced to retreat. or evolve or remove that confusion status condition in some way. Because whenever they try to attack, they're going to be flipping tails. So I think that is probably the standout Shiftry. That's like your bread and butter Shiftry in the line. But there's also two Shiftry EX. So we talked about Mysterious Players got one of the Shiftry EX. Um, there's actually a Mew EX in this cube, where once during the turn, you can look at your opponent's hand if it's on your bench. So you can sort of scout ahead with the Mew EX, see if there's a Pokemon attack worth discarding there, and then you can go in with your Shiftry EX and actually discard it, copy one of the attacks. So you can sort of remove that luck element there if that's a combo you can get in this cube. And then the other Shiftry EX really punishes your opponent for using a lot of Poke Powers. So whenever they activate a Poke Power, you put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. And that combos really nicely with its first attack, target attack, which is Dark Colorless, snipe 30, but if they've already got damage counters on it, you snipe 50. So this is a nightmare for decks that are using Porygon 2 or Delcatty as their draw engine, because they only have 70 HP. And then they take 2 damage from the Shiftry EX ability, and then the Shiftry EX snipes them with target attack, and they're dead. So Shiftry, very strong. I'm a big fan of Shiftry in this dude.
Yeah, I am as well. I mean, like and I think Mysterious Player has already taken one, so maybe he's just giving himself options there. We did see him pick up a Delcat EX. That's something that's like I have noticed about this cube is that your hand size, at least when I played it, can remain fairly large. Okay, now the cards are appearing on the screen. That's good. But I noticed like cards like Q were actually a lot better than they usually are, just because. Then again, whenever I play, and I don't know if this is still a rule, unknown, you got a copy of Unknown Draw, which allowed you to make both players draw. But I still think like because of the added consistency, like hand size can still be quite large. So stuff like Constrain on Delcatty EX is nice. Curious to hear your thoughts on that. Unknown Draw, do you still get a copy, or is that like an old rule?
Being put back into the queue, and people no longer start with it. There's so much consistency already that I don't think it was needed. So we're actually trialing it without that this time.
I think it's nice.
But yeah, I guess as a consequence, Delcatty EX is slightly weaker than it was before. But if you still manage to find the Unknown Draw, that's a cool combo you can do. Also, there's 2 copies of Erica in this cube, where both players may draw up to 3 cards. So that's something if you manage.
I think you might be cutting up just a little bit on your, or maybe it's on mine. I'm not
Oh.
sure. I caught the part about there's Ericas in the cube, and that does obviously combo really well with something like Constrain.
But I think that this draft just completely open right now. He's got the Shiftry, the Delcatty, and basically just consistency apart from that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of I was gonna ask too, like where you think he's going with this, and I feel like he is trying to stay pretty open, just taking like cards maybe he feels like are gonna be maybe enablers for other archetypes. I mean that's kind of what you want to do is you want to find cards that are gonna be good in like a very I don't want to say very specific deck, but like a deck that's like okay, if I draft Welder, it's obviously good in fire decks. But I'm wondering if he's like now I guess maybe ironing it down a little bit because we do see the pack getting a little bit thinner now, so he has more options. Do you think maybe he's leaning hard? Well, it's hard to say pack 1, but I feel like I wouldn't be surprised to see him go into Shiftry if he finds more. But how do you feel so far? I don't know if you've been able to see the other cards in the pack, or if you had any other picks that maybe you thought he should have taken, or any picks that you thought were interesting.
I was surprised by the Baton pick. I know I talked about how it was a strong pick, but that was up against Double Gust and Computer Search, and for most players, those cards you see them and you pick them.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see him pick the baton over there. He also picked a C dot. There were some interesting cards in that pack with the C dot. There was a Pichu Bros, a Raikou EX, and a Swampert. Um, so for those of you who don't know, there isn't actually a Swampert line in the cube. You can only put it into play using Archie's Ace in the Hole. But it's interesting that he's already gone straight for that C dot and not decided to sort of, you know, dip into something else to give him that option later on. Because chances are he will see more C dot. Well, there's another one right now.
Yeah, I mean that's the nice thing with. I guess that's like the common thing. You getting into like those basics are pretty easy, but yeah, I was wondering about the Wishful Baton as well because I did see the comp search and the Double Gust, and Double Gust is an amazing card in general. I mean, as good as like Boss's Orders is in Standard, I mean, Gust in general can make your deck quality just way better on its own. So even if Wishful Baton is a good tool card, you could easily end up into an archetype that's like maybe a low energy cost that Double Gust is just a better card in. So I think early I would have preferred Double Gust, but I mean Wishful Baton's still a great card.
Wishful Baton's good. I think if he is definitely wanting to go Shiftery, I can see why Wishful Baton would be amazing in that deck. There's no inherent acceleration for Dark, and they all use 3 energy for their best attacks. So being able to have one of your Shifteries be knocked out and move those 3 energy onto your next Shiftery and be attacking straight away, that is very powerful. So I can see his reasoning behind that.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see like what deck he ends up on. Just because like I feel like he's got himself like a D value, which is going to be really nice with any of this like even the Slow King. It's really good with. It's good with I mean any of the psychic types, right? So he can usually go into like a tool like any of those tool drop decks. The Shifter EX it's not the I don't think it's the number one Shifter you have when you feel safe to going into it, but it is good to have Shifter in your pool no matter what. So that's a route he can go into. Delcatty EX can lead to some interesting strategies as well. So super interested to see where Mysterious Player goes. And I would like to take just a look around the table now and see where everyone else is at. So we're gonna be going to the right with ENW.
Okay.
ENW has looks like they have quite a bit of. See, we see 2 Dark Golbats and a Zubat. So the Dark Golbat has the power that puts a damage counter on opposing Pokemon, and you have the other one with Night Ambush. So nothing really to. I mean, if they find Crobats, obviously that'd be good. And we see a Skarmory
Yes.
EX here with the little gravity that basically is sort of like Spikemuth. It does have a little bit more contingencies, but I think it's nice in some spread deck, or actually in Crobat, I think it's interesting because you do have the one that poisons and puts 3 damage counters in between, which is basically an incentive to retreat. So I think that could be good in that kind of deck. So um,
Hmm.
we could definitely see some interesting stuff here. And it looks like they got Mischievous there. Not the one I was hoping they would find. The one that pings the damage counter. But looks like they're pretty much it's still the first pack, but getting some consistency, getting some more Pokemon.
Hmm. Definitely looks like they're wanting the Crobat line. See him
Right.
picking the Zubat here over anything else in the pack. Um, might be a bit early to be picking up Zubats, but definitely making sure he's got or they've got their basics, which I guess is important.
Right. So then we're gonna move right along. Look at Weiss on Ice. So we see a ton of consistency. We see let's see, we see 2 dome fossils actually right off the bat. So they might be also eyeing up some Kabutops, which is a line I think is quite good. I really enjoy the well, one thing I think Kabutops is completely mostly pretty unaffected by the coin flip negating powers because all of its attacks are pretty much just matter of fact they aren't flipping coins for their attacks. So I think that's nice. They also hit Shiftry for weakness, and they have really nice power. Like the chop up, to use item lock is really nice. Combined with the fact that you can also tech maxis into those decks as well.
Yeah, Kabutops is really good, and the one that discards Dome Fossils or Old Ambers to do 70 damage for 1 energy is really strong. But there's only 6 of those fossils in the cube itself, so you need to be on those early if you want to make that attacker efficient for long periods of the game.
That makes sense.
Kabutops, it does take a hit to the coin flip manipulation, because it's actually in the Kabutos, they have abilities where you can flip a coin, and then if you get heads, you can search your deck for another Kabuto and put it on your bench. Um, so they sort of, you get one Kabuto out, and it finds another Kabuto, which finds another Kabuto,
It's a chain
which is
reaction.
crazy. And there's also Holon Fossil, which is flip a coin of heads, search your deck for a Kabuto and put it on your bench. If tails, put a Kabuto from your hand onto your bench. So it's restricting your choice there as well. So fossils are interesting in this cube because although the line toppers don't rely on the coin flips, you can get them into play a lot quicker with this coin flip ruling,
Yeah, I didn't
which is
realize
interesting.
that the chain reactions in the Kabutos actually is something that could be, uh, something you have to deal with here. Um,
Yes, it's always fun.
so, but I do agree. For to get into something with the I forget the attack name, but the Kabutops that discard. Actually, there it is, the Primal Scythe. You do need to
Primal Scythe.
you do need to have quite a bit of fossils backed up in your draft here to be able to use it. And it's a little, I wouldn't say unfortunate, but he is, if he is thinking about Kabutops, he is gonna have to hope that that Kabuto comes back, which it could.
Yes,
Fossils don't tend to
I
be
think,
the hottest commodity. Not that they're wrong or anything, but I see more often than not that fossils have more wheelable potential.
yeah, doesn't surprise me that he's picking the Kabutops here.
I think it's
Um,
good.
it's a much higher priority pick than the Kabuto. That's not the best Kabuto in the draft. I'd say it's the second best. But it's still got a neat effect where you can flip a coin of heads, search your deck for a fossil, and put it on your bench. Um, but yes, that Kabuto, along with the 2 Dome Fossil he's already got. Um, twice. Is that, wait, it's a 2 Dome Fossil?
Yeah, two
I thought
dome
he had
fossils.
2. I mean, oh yeah, 2 Dome Fossil. That's a really good start to a fossil deck there.
Yeah, I think this is a position where so normally you don't want to be. I mean, as in Pack 2, you can start committing more to lines, but it's hard to really send it on something early. But looking at Jared's draft here, he already has 2 copies of the Dome Fossil, and the Kabutops is in the same pack. This is really if you're, and let me see another Dome Fossil right here too. This is where you really want to start prioritizing these picks if you have the potential to build like a really full out line. So the Kabutops requires heavy Dome Fossils to do really efficient damage. So in this case, it's okay for him to go into this line pretty early, even if he only has himself quite a few copies of it. He already has like pretty much the bare bones parts of getting the line to work. I think this is fine.
Hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised if he picks up this Dome Fossil here.
Right.
They have very high priority, and the Dome Fossil has rock reaction as well. So when you attach a fighting energy, you can set your deck for a Kabuto and evolve into it straight away. You can do that on your first turn. And then, like I mentioned earlier, with the Kabutos, you get a ton more of them, and the deck sets itself up basically, which is why it's so cool. But looks like he's like eyeing up this Lily, just another consistency supporter. Let us see.
I'm interested to see what he picks as well. I would personally, if I already took the Kabutops and I saw the Kabuto going around, I would want to take the Dome Fossil just because of the because since the Kabutops attack demands so much Dome Fossil in your deck, and we already see him have Steven's Advice, Colress, and we talked about consistency. He already has Pokeball as well, so he's building himself out a pretty good consistency engine. I didn't even notice that. So he's totally fine here. Oh, and he also has Misuse Wrath. Wow,
Yes, he's got consistency for days,
that is so
and the
good.
fossils set themselves up, so
Yeah.
you don't need that much to get them
So
going.
you can even use the
Um,
I mean like you get one of them out and then you can use your stuff like your Pokeball to just find out your stage 2. Like that is that Jared Seck's already coming off to be, I mean, I don't want to jinx anything, but it's starting strong. I think that's safe to say.
yes, yes.
I do want to keep
I
moving
think
around. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
yes. Yeah, go on.
No, no, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, the Primal Scythe Kabutops, discarding the fossils. It probably is the best attacker in the cube, but it is limited by the sort of ammo system where once
Hmm.
you've used all your fossils, it's not very good anymore. You're doing 1 energy 20 on a stage 2. Um, and that's intentionally why there's only 6 fossils in the cube to discard with that attack, to sort of balance it out a bit there, and put a lot higher priority on the fossils. Because I know in most cubes you draft, you often just see fossils at the end of packs, and that's not the case in this cube. Should we move on to Proworks?
Yeah, let's go ahead and look and see what they're up to here. Okay, I see quite a bit of Pokemon. Trying to see what they have. I see a Malamar. Believe that is the But okay, so they have the Trash Tentacles one in their pool. They have quite a mix actually. We do see the earliest pack they picked up an Azelf, which is always nice for pricing. They did pick up a copy of Maxie's, so but I don't see any fighting Pokemon yet. So they might be able to utilize it. We'll see. It's gonna kind of depend what they unpack here. Um, but it
Mhm.
looks like they're not really into a line yet. I do see some Malamar speculation. Also, I guess I do want to acknowledge they have a Jolteon and an Umbreon EX. So Jolteon's looking could be a pretty good option for them if they see more pieces.
For sure. And he's got the Raikou EX. So if he
Right.
gets a hand on a Thunder Mountain, he'll have a really strong Lightning base.
As well as the
And
Speed
then
Lightning.
Umbreon EX and the Speed Lightning as well. Great consistency there. And then the Umbreon EX is just a great, it's just a great Pokemon. When you evolve, you can gust one of their bench.
Yep.
I do like getting the Maxis early. There are 2 Maxis only targets in this cube. There's the Claydol from Great Encounters with the Cosmic Power ability, which is just, it's the best draw support Pokemon ever printed, I would say. And there's
Definitely.
also a Nidoking with the Territoriality Pokebody, which basically just gives all your Pokemon a Rocky Helmet. So whenever they get attacked, your opponent's Pokemon takes 2 damage counters, which is also a super nice effect to have in play.
Yeah, so it looks like Prox is getting. Oh, hopefully they find more EV pieces. I would love to see where this is going because there's so much consistency leading towards that point. I'm gonna move over to blue. Blue, we see quite a bit. We see a double lantern. We see one from Legends Awaken with energy split. It does 30 to each of your opponent's Pokemon that has any energy attached to it. And then Aqua Bolt, 60 plus 10 for each water energy attached to the lantern. Then we also see the one from Power Keepers with the energy grounding. Pretty familiar. It was one that was reprinted in Celestial Storm. It has this power. It says whatever your active gets knocked out, you can take a basic energy attached to them, and basically a EXP share. And then it's Lightning Strike does 50, and then you can discard all lightning energies, I believe, and then it does an additional 40, so 90 damage total, which is really good in this cube. Like 3 for 90. Granted, you do have to discard a lot. Um, can take knockouts on quite a few different lines here. And we also see a Celio and a Spheal. I don't think we see any Walrein yet. I'm curious to see which Starmie did they find. They found the Aqua Recycle, basically just a watered down version of the evolutions. Allows you to get a water energy back to your
Mhm.
hand. And then is that an energy gel Delcatty too? So yeah, we actually could see an engine where they can recycle energy with Delcatty. Or with Starmie and use it for draw, but Delcatty is really nice in general to have early, just because you can build around it. Any thoughts here? What you're seeing with Blue's draft pool?
Yes, it looks like he's definitely going for this sort of lightning water hybrid. So the energy on it, and then he's got the Starmie piece with the Delcatty for the draw engine. On top of that, he's got some super nice support. He's got a computer search, a double gust, and an energy restore. Energy restore is really good in this cube. You can just put 3 basic energy card from your discard pile into your hand. So that's going to combo nicely with the Starmie Delcatty as well. And it looks like he's trying to get into Walrein. He's got the Celio and the Spiel. And one of the Wolverine, when you evolve, you can attach as many water energy as you like from your hand onto it. So it definitely looks like he's got some direction. The only thing he's really lacking right now is draw supporters. He has none.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, is it just straight zero? Yeah. So Blue is definitely gonna need to find some doll supporters in the next few packs. Luckily, there's still time to grab them. It's not like there is still 66 pixels, but yeah, it's definitely something you're just gonna want to look for here. Um, so Walreign's kind of an interesting line. It's one of the biggest lines in the cube. Where do you think the line really shines with? I know like it has a lot of energy excel like powers, kind of like Typhlosion. Did you see it mostly like as a support line, or do you see like players being able to take advantage of how tanky the stage twos are?
I think it can definitely be utilized as a support line in lots of decks. So there's two Crush Draw, where you look at the top card of your deck and attach um, it if it's a basic energy to one of your Pokemon. And there's a few ways of getting that energy on your top of your deck guaranteed. So that can really combo with any attacker in the cube if you manage to get a Crush Draw setup, maybe a Power Circulation Delcatty. That can combo super nicely with some of these types that don't have much energy acceleration. So perhaps Aggron in Metal, there isn't any acceleration for it, or the Shiftry that we talked about earlier. That's a really good partner. But even as an attacker, the Wolverine's not bad. So the Crush Draw has the Sheer Cold attack, which is 3 energy 50, but flip a coin of heads, the defending Pokemon can't attack next turn. So 3 energy 50 is not great, but then it's coin flip cube. They're guaranteed not being able to attack next turn, so they're going to have to retreat or evolve out of that effect. Um, I don't think it's been explored as an attacker much so far, but I don't know. I think it would be really annoying to play against a Pokemon like that, especially with the amount of HP it has.
Yeah, actually,
And then the
I was just gonna say
okay.
I was looking through this cube list earlier today, and when I was reading through Crush Draw and Cheer Cold is usually not an attack you tend to really pay much mind to because of coin flip, but the since it's always going to be guaranteed heads, being able to prevent an attack can be very frustrating for decks that aren't capable of maneuvering their Pokemon that easily. So I could definitely see Sheer Cold coupled with Walreign's tankiness and the added bonus of Crush Draw accelerating to the bench or accelerating to accelerate energy in general. It's just can be I think you can use Walrein as an attacker, which is really cool in this cube.
It's definitely cool. We see Blue picking up his second energy restore here. So that to me tells me he's looking for one of these Gather Ice Wolverines, where when you evolve, you can attach as many waters from your hand. And that combos really nicely with two of the Starmies in this cube, the ones with Cosmic Cyclone. So he's not been able to pick any of those up yet, but they have an attack where you shuffle as many water energy attached to your Pokemon into your deck as you like, and then you deal 20 damage for each energy you shuffled in. So you can imagine if you're evolving into a Walrein, got some energy restores, and you're attaching, I don't know, 6 or 7 energy in one go, then you've just got this Starmie in the active with a 1 energy attack that's just shuffling these back into the deck and taking huge knockouts. It's really hard to get one-hit knockouts in this cube, but that Starmie, if built around, can definitely reach that.
That's a really good point, and that's definitely could be like a reality for Blue here. So they already started picking up some of the Starmie pieces already. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to finish looking around to see if any Walrein pieces have been taken, but Blues kind of has both options here. They definitely got a lot of Lantern built out, but I could also see a switch into Walrein. I think that line could definitely come together. I do want to like finish looking around just to see if those Walreins have moved around, and moving over to Pepsi. Pepsi a lot of fire here, so they are picking up a lot of the Arcanines. They do have this one from Secret Wonders, but I actually am a huge fan of the Flame Dash power. Lets you pivot your active with it, and then move all the energy attached to that Pokemon to your new active Arcanine. And it has a 4 energy cost attack that does 120, which is a really good damage output for a lot of the lines of this cube. Um, so I mean, Al, what are your thoughts on Arcanine? Do you think he's maybe getting into a lot of the pieces you'd want to see here for that?
He's got the two best attacking Arcanines. He needs to find at least one of the other ones that accelerates energy. So I believe it's from Skyridge. When you evolve that Arcanine, you flip 3 coins, and for each head, you can attach an energy from your discard pile to that Arcanine. So like you said, with the Flame Dash, that combos brilliantly because you can evolve into the Accelerating Arcanine and then use the Flame Dash Arcanine to sort of steal all those energy and then hit them for 120 damage incredibly efficiently and early. And 120 damage is a lot in this cube. That one shot's 95% of Pokemon, I want to say. There's a couple of Walrein and a couple of Shiftry that you won't hit.
Right.
But he's got a really good start here with the Arcanines. And then Arcanine EX is also a really good attacker. There's a couple of burning energy in this cube. If you manage to pick those up, then you can actually chain Flame Swirl. 3 energy, 100, but you have to discard 2 fire energy every time you use that attack. With just 1 burning energy on there, you can be using that attack turn after turn. So that's really nice.
Oh yeah, Burning Energy is a
Um,
card that's in here. Like that's definitely probably one of the most important cards that Arcanine can utilize. Just to, I know it has a lot of discard effects, so that's something I'm sure that they'll be looking out for here.
I would imagine so. But nothing. It looks like he's got a bit of an Aggron line going on with the Arons, 3 Arons and a Lairon. But no, 4 Aron. Sorry, that's a lot of Aron.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but definitely more invested in fire at this point. Um, not too many draw supporters as well. Um, more sort of tutoring, disruption based supporters.
Yeah, I would like to see a few like some more consistency grabs here. So hopefully we'll see that in the later picks. Well, Zach Kreckler, the last person in line here. Ooh, we see someone in contention for Walrein here. That is a lot of Celio and Spheal, and we know that Blue has some of the pieces. And Zach Kreckler is picking up one of the Crushed Jaw Walrein. Actually going for the Cessation Crystal. Actually not sure which one to go for. I know Zach does love his
Yes.
Cessation Crystal, but I think maybe he's valuing the Walrein here just to have all these pieces come together.
Yes, he might have noticed that some of the Celios and Spiels have been picked up. So he might expect the Walrein to be taken up. And I think he values the second Crush Draw um, over that Cessation Crystal. Um, he's got some rare candies as well, so he can get into those Walreins super early. He's got the Nessa, which is a really nice card as well, being able to recover 4 in any combination of Water Pokemon and Water Energy and Splash Energy. So Zach is definitely on water this game.
I feel like Mysterious Player is going to be very confused when he sees Steven's Advice and Cessation Crystal still left in the pack.
That, yes, and Jewel Ball as
Oh
well.
yeah, and Dual Vol.
Another great card.
But I mean, that sometimes it's just what happens. I also think for Zach too, maybe the reason he was hesitating on Cessation Crystal is like usually, I mean, the card is so strong since it shuts off Poke Powers, but it shuts it off on both sides. Sorry, Poke Powers and I think Poke Bodies. But Zach's playing. If Zach is going to go for this Walrein deck, his deck is going to be extremely reliant on Poke Powers and Crest Draw. That while Cessation Crystal is still just a great card, I think for his deck that he's trying to build here, you're better off taking the Walrein because it's really low odds that card comes back to you just because it works in other decks besides just a straight Walrein deck.
Yes, that is interesting, sure. One of the cards he's picked up, the Togepi with Mini Metronome. I'm interested to see if he puts that in his deck because he's definitely got the tools to make it work. So for those of you who don't know, it's a 30 HP basic, but it's got double colorless attack. If you flip a coin of heads, you copy one of the defending Pokemon's attacks. So at face value, that doesn't seem that great. You've got a basic with 30 HP that needs 2 energy. But if you can just copy one of their attacks, you can use the Crush Draw Walrein to power it up, and maybe copy something like an Aggron's attack, or an Arcanine's attack. You can have you can do a lot of damage for those two energies. Um, so that is an interesting pickup, and I'd like to see him make that work. Um,
Well, I mean, I think it's nice too because the crush draw would allow you to get an extra attachment on the Togepi, so you could in one turn actually just swing in with Mini Metronome and surprise your opponent. Granted, this is an open deckless tournament, but that's still something you have to be careful around. Like if your attack is so good that it knocks yourself out, if someone else used
mhm.
it, like that's a huge reason to pop this Togepi in the active, and I think it honestly can be
Exactly.
something that's just like comes out and it preserves your stage 2. I mean, you don't have to commit that much to the Togepi. I could see this card actually working in Zach's deck here with the Crush Draw engine.
Yes. I hope he puts it in. It's just scary to play against as well. Perhaps you don't go in with your Pokemon that's got such a high power attack, and you look for other ways to sort of play around that. But you can't play around the Togepi forever. So, but yeah, Zach's deck is looking really good right now. He's got a lot of consistency, a lot of powerful ball search cards, computer search, timer ball, quick ball, all great cards.
We do see one of the shifters we were talking about earlier with the unlucky win. It's an auto tails on your opponent's side during their turn. So if they have any attacks that require coin flips, if they play something like a dual ball on their turn, it's going to result in a tails. So that's one of the cards you see, and you're kind of spooked by if you aren't prepared for it to deal with it.
Yes, yes. Passing to Mysterious Player, so I can't imagine Zach's going to pick that. We don't know if Mysterious Player is still on Shiftry, but if he is, he's likely to pick that up. Um, an unfortunate pack for the Slowking player. I don't know if there is one in this draft, but seeing two Slowpoke and a Slowking in one pack is not ideal.
Yeah, it's a little bit upsetting. We do see him actually go for the shifter here. I think this is either a hate draft or he's played on incorporating shifter in his deck. I haven't seen enough decks from this cube to know. Do you often see shifter tucked into things like just randomly?
I have seen a 1/1/1 line of Shiftry once. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
one of the first times we played this deck. Um, and then yeah, I think they just used it with some Aurora energy, just sort of as a deterrent to some of the attackers. I can't remember how successful it was, but we do see the Digwell Blastoise here being picked up by Zach. So that's one of the Pokemon that can only be put into play using Archie's Ace in the Hole. So Zach is definitely going to be looking out for that card. Um, the Blastoise is crazy, I will say. Um, it's got Digwell, so you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and attach as many water energy cards as you find there. So it's kind of like Crush Draw on steroids, but only for water.
Worth noting that Blastoise is also one of Zach's favorite Pokemon, so probably a double reason to be excited to take this.
Yes,
We also saw him get past one of his other favorite cards, which is Cessation Crystal, which we are
this is
seeing
a
him grab here. That is actually
a-
insanely good.
yeah,
I'm very surprised
but
actually.
he is passing Nessa and Splash Energy. I guess he's already got one of each of those. But pick 7 Cessation Crystal is pretty rare.
Especially because we saw
Um,
him debate between it and the Walrein. So to pass the Station Crystal and then it come back is a dream.
Definitely. So that's both the cessation crystals gone now. They were both in this round of attacks. He goes straight for that Holand's Electrode. Perhaps giving him some versatility to be able to use the Shiftry as an attacker, being able to provide 2 of any energy is really powerful. And searchable with cards like Timer Ball, it being a stage 1.
Oh, you know what? That's true. I actually didn't think about that because normally Castform's the card you see getting grabbed with stuff like Mentor or I guess even Quick Ball. But Yeah, like Timer Ball can grab you a Holland's Electrode and an Evolution, so you can get an energy and a Pokemon in one card. That actually is really cool. Something I didn't even think about.
Yeah, there's always things to think about. Um, Also looks like he's got this mini. He's only got two unknowns right now. There's the Archies. I guess he saw that earlier and was hoping it would wheel, and it has wheeled for him. There's also
The
the
other
Cessation
Cessation
Crystal. So
Crystal.
that's a pick 9 Cessation Crystal. It's gonna
Oh
be pick
my
10.
gosh.
Um,
I'm interested by that because I didn't see quite other cards that stacked up to Cessation Crystal. I feel like maybe I'm wrong here, but I think Cessation Crystal is quite good. Being able to, it's one of the few cards that shuts off Shiftry and Malamar, as well as any other Poke Powers. So you're able to slow down, and maybe someone Archie's maxes out that Claydol they really wanted. You can shut it all down with Cessation Crystal, but maybe everybody else is just we're gonna have a very wholesome decks here with no ability locking.
yeah, looks like no one's interested in the Cessation Crystal, which
um,
is kind of mind-blowing.
I think if it wasn't an Archie's in the pack, I definitely could have seen Zach gone into double Cessation Crystal there. But Archie's for what he has here makes a ton of sense. Like we saw him pick up the Blastoise, and you're giving up on Archie's at that point if you have to pass it because it's not coming back. So I'd say it makes sense. We are seeing him go for a Clefairy here over the Hue or the Rescue Scarf. Is there a Clefable maybe that this works with?
He has a Clefable with the Moon Guidance ability.
Oh,
You
okay.
can flip a coin of heads, just evolve one of your Pokemon. Search your deck for a Pokemon that evolves from one of your Pokemon and evolve it. So that's a super nice support Pokemon to have because it kind of gives you some old Rare Candy vibes where you can bench your Spiel and then use Moon Guidance and immediately search that Celio and evolve it. And then you're ready to just evolve into Walrein next turn. Um, really accelerates getting these stage twos into play quickly.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense then. Because then you can also get into something like the Celios that have the oh what's it called, the ability that puts
The
the energy on top.
Yeah,
Power
the power
circulation.
circulation.
Yeah, thank you. Power
If he
circulation.
manages to get a second Clefable, he can and gets them both set up. He can bench a Spiel and then Moon Guidance twice and go straight
Oh,
into a Walrein.
oh, you can double Moon
Um,
Guidance. That is
you can
nice.
double Moon
That is really
Guidance.
nice.
No one's pulled that off so far, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I mean the odds of getting both are never in your favor, but I mean if we can see two Cessation Crystals come through, I'm sure we can see double Moon Guidance.
Yes, definitely.
Double
I think
Slowpoke in
people
the
in
pack.
general,
Or
yeah, someone's taken the Slow King, but maybe they will a Slowpoke, depending on who picked it.
yep, I do hope so. I think Slowking was kind of a line I was going back and forth with as far as like how I rate it. I think actually I mean from our discussions before too, and then also just looking more at what the queue has to offer. If you're able to find, a decent array of tools as well as stuff like Eco Arm. I mean the 2 for 80 on the Dark Slowking as an attack is good, and then you have the follow up Slowking that does fit for each tool in the discard. A lot of synergies there, as well as the one that just searches the power searches out tool cards. So tool I don't know what you call it. I keep calling it tool drop, but like the tool archetypes are really cool in this cube and how they work.
Yes, I call them Tool Drop. Um, Mostly for the litter attack on the Dark Slowking, where you discard up to two tools. You're kind of dropping them in the discard pile, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a decent amount of synergy for that. We've seen it being very successful in the past, but you do have to commit to collecting a lot of tools, which are often high priority picks. We saw a mysterious player picking that Wishful Baton, super high priority, so it can often be hard to get the number of tools you need to make the deck work.
Yeah, so that's just like the dumb fossils. You gotta find them early, and sometimes you might not find them as many as you want. So, when the drafts come together, I mean, it's quite nice. But luckily, there is stuff like Eco Arm in the cube as well to like balance that out too. So, like, if you are
Mhm.
maybe have 6 tools available to you, you can rehash those, and like 2 for 80, especially with stuff like D value, you're doing 1 for 80. Um,
One
it,
for 80 is so good in this
you
deck.
get a pretty good payoff for taking that risk, I'd say.
Yes, it's good. Um,
We are seeing last pick.
Originally, yep. Nick on.
Oh, sorry. I'll say we are seeing last peak Drowsy here. This is one of the interesting cards in the queue. So as an attack, it forces your opponent's coin flips to be tail. So tell me more about cards like this and like what you see these cards really doing the best in, like what kind of archetypes.
So this drowsy, honestly, I don't think it's that great. But it has to be in there because it's coin flip queue. But
Right.
it has a purpose. If you're going first, we're using the Gen 3 rule set for going first, so you can play items. If you build your deck in a way where you can find the drowsy on turn one, switch into it, and use that sinister suggestion, you can slow down your opponent a lot. So kind of similar to perhaps the Spiritium from Arceus with the item lock for both players. Um, Probably not on that power level, but just turning off your opponent's coin flips, their Pokeballs don't work, their Jewel Balls don't work, even some of their supporters don't work. Things like Professor Birch's observations, instead of shuffle drawing 7 cards, they would only draw 4. It can just give you that time you need to set up your board more efficiently than your opponent is doing.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting use case for it because you're right. It is a lot like that the old Spiritomb, just because your coin flips are going to be like your dual balls, your night teleport, which you see in this pack. And this is like, like I was saying earlier, like if you build your deck to be entirely coin flip reliant, that you need to hit heads on these cards to get the full effect. Something like a drowsy here in the early turns can provide some very annoying setbacks, because sometimes you can't even attack because you can't hit heads. So kind of an interesting dynamic there between cards like these and the rest of the cube.
Definitely interesting. I do want to talk about this pack. He's
Sure.
prioritizing the Versus Seeker. So that potentially lets him reuse Archie's Ace in the Hole. Perhaps if Blastoise gets knocked out, or if he just wants to get another Walrein in play, he has the option being able to use the Archies. But he is picking that over the Night Teleporter. So Night Teleporter, flip a coin of heads. You search your what happens? You put all your cards in your deck from your hand into your deck, sorry, and then you search your deck for any one card and put it in your hand. So you can Night Teleporter, flip heads, and search out Archies. And you can only play Archies if it's the last card in your hand. So that's an enabler for Archies. So I wouldn't be surprised if he picks up this Night Teleporter. Nope, he's going for the Battle Compressor. Perhaps going for the Battle Compressor to get the Blastoise in the discard pile. A bit unfortunate that all these Archies sort of synergies are coming up at the same time. Um, but
Yeah, it is. It is a bit unfortunate, but that's one of the cool things what Night Teleport allows you to do is just pretty much switch out, get pretty much get the Archie's combo in one card. Which I mean, I don't. How many? There's 4 in the cube. Is that right?
there's 4 Night Teleporter.
Yeah, and I think we saw
Yes.
one in one of the previous packs, so there might only be another one available to him. But I suppose the battle compressor he's just using as a way to get the Archie's targets out into the discard faster. It's a bit harder to play some of the, if you think about how Archie's is built and expanded, just because like you don't have
Mm-hmm.
access to the bounty of 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Trainer's Mail, 4 Battle Compressors. But you can make that up with cards like my Teleporter. There's like other discard synergies. You can use like Ultra Ball, Quick Ball. You can still get there, but we should do see him pick up there.
Yes.
Um,
Interesting. He's prioritizing the quick ball here over cards like Double Gust, Erica, even the Walrein. Um, I guess he just really wants that basic consistency.
Maybe also the
Um,
discard effect, I guess.
yeah. Another good use of Battle Compressor in this deck though is he's got the Nessa. So he can Battle Compressor some Pokemon in the discard pile and then just Nessa them all back to hand. Um,
Yeah, that is a good use case. Because it then basically it acts as a just a search 3, which is really good for the deck he's building here, being able to search out stuff like the Clefable, or not Nessa, not Nessa. It's being search up stuff like the Walreins and the Spiels and everything.
Hmm.
Although, yeah, I'm with you. I'm interested why he didn't pick the double gust or the I could see leaving the Walrein for double gust, but the Walrein is can be quite nice because of the attack is just like a flare grunt, as well as it can move all the energies to itself. But usually
Yeah.
we see Zach picking gust effects pretty highly here, so this is definitely an interesting decision. Not one I don't necessarily disagree with though. I mean the quick ball is quite good, but I was definitely
Hmm.
expecting double gust.
It's possible he's trying to lean into more of a crush draw toolboxy archetype.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than attacking with the Wolverine, just using it for that energy acceleration. But he does need to find some power circulation effects. I think he's got one of the Celios. No, he's got two Celios with that ability. So he's on a good line here.
Um, Yeah, I think he's at least getting himself into like the archetype he's wants to get into. Just I guess trying to find more pieces to like make it more consistent. Um,
Yes. He's got some basic attackers. So we talked about the Togepi. He's also got this unknown. Um, it's just an unknown. I can't remember what set it's from. Um, it's got a triple colorless attack. I believe it's from Unseen Forces. So for three colorless energy, you count the number of cards in your opponent's hand, and you put that number of damage counters on the defending Pokemon. Which isn't great, but he's got the Unknown Y. Unknown Y, once during your turn, you may flip a coin of heads. You can set your deck for a psychic energy and attach it to any one of your unknown. So he can be using Unknown Y with the Crush Draw to power up this unknown. And then if his opponent has a lot of cards in their hand, that can be really punishing.
yeah, I definitely agree. The unknowns are interesting. Like it looks like they kind of also have their own like archetype together. 'Cause I know there's one that copies the effects of them. Of the other, copies the attacks of the others. Have you seen like an unknown deck come together, or do you see like a room where that happens?
We haven't seen one come together so far. Um, their most common use is with the Unknown Y, like I said, and we see it in the pack now actually that Miss Magius with the Magical Trance. Once per turn, you can move a psychic energy from one of your Pokemon to another Pokemon. So if you've got this Unknown Y that can just accelerate a psychic to itself every turn, then your Miss Magius can move that anywhere. So that's another sort of energy acceleration option, sort of similar to the Dragtrode option we see sort of in the last Cube League with the Dark Electrode and the Dark Dragonite moving dark energies around.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Uh,
Um,
but Unknown, I wanted to put Unknowns in this cube because of Unknown Y. Um, they have some interesting attacks, but committing that much energy to basics with low HP usually is a bad idea. And Unknown Y is energy acceleration for unknowns, but on a coin flip. So it makes sense to include that here because you can guarantee that energy acceleration. You can guarantee that you're going to be attacking with these unknowns a lot easier than you would be otherwise. So I'm interested to see if anyone does manage to make an unknown archetype work. But you will be looking for Dimension Valley if you're trying to do that.
Yeah, I think we've already seen. I know Mysterious Player got one of them, so I don't know who if anyone got the other one that we saw. Um, Al, which tab do you want to check in on? I know we've looked at Mysterious Players, and we've been looking at Zax, but is there anyone else you want to look into now and see where they're at for the rest of this pack?
I'd be interested to see what White on Ice has moved on to, whether he's still on the Kabutops or maybe he's
Sure.
decided to do something else.
So we're gonna go right into Weiss on Ice's tab, who yes was driving that Kabutops line. Looking at what they have here, I'm not able to see the bottom of their tab. I'm going to look and see. Um,
Right, so I can tell you he has one other Kabutops from earlier, but it's not the same one. It's the one with Luring Antenna and Primal Stare, so it prevents their opponent's active Pokemon from evolving. Um, Interestingly, he's got two of the Aerodactyl with Unearth, once during your turn, you can search your deck for a fossil and put it in your hand. So that combos perfectly with the Primal Scythe Kabuto. Just being able to find that fossil to get that bonus damage. Um, doesn't look like he's really on anything else though. He's really trying to get this fossil deck to come together. Just trying to count the number of fossils he's got. He's on 1, 2, 3. I want to say 3 Dome Fossil and 1 Old Amber.
Oh yeah, because he can use old amber as well, right? For the yeah, he can use that for Primal Scythe.
Yes, and discard either. So that's a good start.
Double Karina is really
Definitely needs the
nice.
other. Double Karina is very nice, especially as that can find Holon Fossil as well.
Right.
So he can Karina for Kabutops Holon Fossil for a Kabuto, and then next turn he's got that Kabutops to evolve straight away. But he hasn't managed to find any of the water Kabutops. They're the not Kabutops, sorry, Kabuto, with the revived friends to find more Kabuto. I don't think there are any going around this pack.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't seen them yet.
Doesn't look like it. Just looking through the other tabs, no one. They just haven't been seen yet. So there's still plenty of time.
Yeah, I think he's still in a really good spot though. Like looking through the rest of his tab, look what he has here. Look at his. I'm counting the draw supporters. Um, like we saw the Steven's invite in the Colress early, which is great. We saw a second Steven's advice, double Karina. So he's getting there. I would like to see a few more, just like solid like shuffle draw, or or some more just like hand building cards. But I do love Steven's advice, and it's a great card. But if that's your only main draw supporter you have at the moment, it can be a little bit hit or miss because sometimes your opponent doesn't fill their bench. So same with Colress. He's got a lot of cards that depend on his Pokemon benching stuff, which I mean, there's good reasons why they would, but in an open deck list, you are able to see like stuff like that, and you can definitely play around it. So I would like to see something like a Cynthia and N, even like a Professor Birch would be nice. Just something that allows him just be consistently drawing. Just because he has such a setup heavy deck, a lot of his deck does search itself, but you know, since he needs the tools to attack with one of not tools, the fossils to attack with one of his Pokemon, and then see Ace Trainer kind of falls in that same bubble where it's like it's conditional, so it can be not a good draw supporter early, but I mean in this pack, I for sure I understand why you would take it, but I'd like to see him getting something a little more consistent.
Yes, I see what you mean there. He has got an Alima, which basically both players shuffle draw 6 in this cube, which is okay, but obviously far from ideal. It does pick up the Ace Trainer, which is a good option if he does fall behind. He's got a few powerful tools at his disposal. He's got a Fluffy Berry, which is really nice for pre-retreat. He's got a Wishful Baton as well, perhaps trying to lean into the 3 energy attacks on the Kabutops, which is nice. He has got Porygon 2. I believe that's backup. Yes, it is. So I guess that might be where he's picking up his consistency, being able to draw until he has 6 cards in his hand every turn. Yes, very, very focused on fossils right now.
Which I think you almost have to be if you're this far in, and
Yes.
I feel like it's super risky to like even speculatively go into Kabutops in later packs. So like the odds, not saying that can't happen, but the odds that someone else goes into that line can be kind of low. Just because you need so much other stuff in your pool just to make it work that if you're already scrambling, Kabutops is not something you can generally just go into. So I think focusing this hard early I think it's fine more often than not.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
Ooh, we do see the giant cape still in here as well. That's really interesting, just because of the extra HP. I think in a lot of lines here can be very beneficial, putting yourself just out of knockout range for some of these cards.
Mm-hmm. Giant Cape is just a very good card. Um, in terms of cube design, I always find Giant Cape makes it quite late into packs. But if you start putting Big Charm in your cube instead of Giant Cape, people pick those up almost straight
uh,
away. That 10 HP difference is just crazy. So
absolutely
there's
right.
the looks like he managed to wield that Kabutops. Um, not the strongest Kabutops, but if you manage to get it out early, it can be really disruptive for your opponent.
Yeah, I'm just pulling that one up on the screen now. It's the one with Primal Stare. Um, let me grab that one. So yeah, I guess he's just looking. So he has 3 Kabutops now. Just almost the whole line. He's like pretty much 3/5 of the way there. And we do see actually the Kabuto coming to him late is a really good sign for him, because if anyone was even speculatively into Kabutops, the Kabuto probably wouldn't have stayed there. So that's really good to see for Jared.
Definitely, yes. Um, no one else is on fossils, which is the dream for the fossil deck.
Yeah, it's really. I think if you're trying to dash fossils, if it's completely open, that's exactly where you want to be, because it's hard when it's contested. Like if your dome fossils get split down the middle, it can be really awkward. And,
It definitely can.
and nobody's on my
Um,
man Fortress, which is a shame.
which I know you like that fortress.
Fortress is.
I am surprised. I saw Zach picked up a Pinecoat earlier, so
Mhm.
I'm surprised he passed on this fortress. Double colorless energy. It does 40 damage and hit and run, so you can switch with one of your bench Pokemon, which is so strong in cube format specifically. Um, we do see a last pick Lunatone. Um, Which is an interesting card. It's got some synergy. Being able to discard cards from your hand can help set up 4 Maxis and Archie's plays. And if you have a Solrock in play, you can actually draw a card after you've discarded your card. It's a pretty mini draw engine going there.
Yeah, I always thought that was something that is really cool about this, like how the Lunatone and the Solrock can work off each other. Um, Especially like in a situation where like you have both of them on the bench anyway for like any sort of strategy, you can utilize them for your draw engine as well. And this is quite the pack we are
Yeah,
seeing here. uh, One of a dome fossil in here, a reserve ticket, a download Porygon, and an X transceiver, as well as one of the unknown Ys. So quite a few different cards that different lines will be looking for here. I honestly think Jared can pass the dome fossil in favor maybe a reserve ticket or an X transceiver. Or maybe the Porygon if he has the other Porygon too. Actually, we do see a Porygon 2 in his pile, so we could see that. But I think he's safe to pass the dome fossil given how good this pack is.
interestingly picking the
Yeah.
Watch and Learn Sudowoodo. Um, I don't know if I agree with that. But maybe he values right now he's not seeing the most aggressive Kabutops, and he's thinking this can fill an attacker slot in his deck for just 2 energy. He can copy the attack his opponent used last turn, and he does have a Stark Mountain in his draw, which lets you move once per turn a fire or fighting energy from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. So he can power up the Sudowoodo in one turn if he has an energy on board, which definitely makes it a strong pick. But cards like Reserved Ticket, if you have a backup Porygon 2 in your deck, that is so strong. Just being able to put a card on top of your deck and then draw into it immediately.
Yeah, we do see the backup Porygon in their draft pool here. So I would have expected either that or the transceiver just for the consistency. But maybe the watch and learn they felt was very impactful for their deck, and they wanted to at least have some more solid attackers, even the basics. I mean, watch and learn you can get a lot of value out of. But we do see a reserve ticket pickup here, which I do like to see, just because in this case, when you have a draw engine for it with the Porygon 2, it might as well just be an even better comp search. So, um, pretty nice to see here.
Yes, reserve ticket's a really good card in this cube. And actually, probably the main reason why I removed Unknown D from your starting pool. It made reserve ticket way too good, because you could basically just guarantee whatever card you wanted. Whereas now it's a bit more work. I mean, you do need a way to draw into that card to make use of it immediately.
Yeah, I can see reserve ticket being pretty nuts with a bunch of unknown draw, just because, like you say, you don't really have to. You can just get whatever card you want for free. And I think in this case, you do have to set up. You have to have the Porygon 2 out to actually get the card immediately, assuming you don't have another way to draw it. So, but either way, reserve ticket is just a nice card. I mean, it works really well with stuff like Steven's Advice to get you free search. And I think in Jarrett's deck, you definitely need it. And you see a switch here. Pretty normal pick. If Ferris to pass to Kabuto, I guess also just thinking that he's got a lot of the I guess he has. I see 2 Kabutos on the screen. I know the fast evolution's not the best out of all of them in comparison, but I guess they figure they can utilize switch with something like the Stark Mountain.
Switch is definitely good, but I would like to see the low ball here. It's very easy to get the Kabuto into play, and if you can basically just recover 3 of your evolution Pokemon straight to your hand, you can be chaining these Kabutops a lot easier. I think that might have slightly higher priority.
For sure.
At least if I were in this draft. I'm not seeing any recovery yet in his draft pool.
Yeah, that's what I
But
was.
Switch is still a good card. So
Yeah.
you're never happy to see it. You're never sad to see a Switch. Sorry.
So if I'm looking through as well. I'm not seeing. I don't think I'm seeing. Oh, I see one Brock's Grit.
Oh yes, Brock's great. Okay, so I guess the Switch makes
The
more
Switch is
sense here then.
fine. I mean, you could argue Lurball for sure, getting you 3 evolutions. But I think he's probably okay without it. I fail to remember the amount of copies of Rescue Stretcher or Super Rod or Night Maintenance.
There's not much, to be honest. There's 4 Lobel, so that's like the main recovery. And there's 2 Super Rod, but it's actually the old Super Rod. Where flip the coin of heads, you get an evolution card from discard pile to hand, and if tails, you put a basic Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand.
That's actually really cool.
And there's 2 ordinary rods. And then aside from that, it's all supporter-based recovery. Brock's Grit, Flower Shop Lady, and Palmer's. We see a Palmer's in this pack, actually.
Yeah, which obviously is going to be less appetizing when you have a Brock's Grit.
Palmer's has a use, though, because it shuffles up to 5 in any combination. Which is kind of niche, but there are situations I've been in where you need exactly 1 card from your discard pile to go back in your deck. Farmers can just put that 1 card in, and then you're not drawing all this extra stuff that you don't want.
I've never realized that. I've never realized that Palmer
I do like Palmer's.
Palmer says. I've never realized Palmer says shuffle up to. That's
yes,
actually
that's where the benefit of Palmer's is. I really like Palmer's.
Oh man, it sounds like really silly to be like it's just 1 word, but that changes a lot of that card's utility. Just because one of the problems you see when you play Brock's is if you have to shuffle in 6 cards, but you only need like maybe a Pokemon and an energy, but the other 4 cards aren't gonna help you. You become way more vulnerable to stuff like reset stamp and admin. Or even just drawing into your cards that you're looking for. That if you could get away with shuffling less, it's better for you. So I could definitely see situations where that up to 5 being very effective here. And I'm curious why nobody here wants the double gust. I feel like the double gusts have been just passed around frequently.
Yes, people are not valuing the double gusts, which is sad because the card's so good.
Yeah, I'm.
Especially if you're playing a deck with really low retreat costs, so things like Crobat, um, basically Crobat.
Yeah, I mean, Crobat with double gust is hopefully someone's drafting Crobat because all these double gusts I see coming through. Double gust is probably one of the most reliable gust cards you have access to, just because. I mean, granted, your opponent does get to decide what goes in the active, but you can combo that with something like a switch, or maybe a fluffy berry, or even just a retreat. That I think the card is just so good in a lot of decks that can you know, play around it smartly. So I'm really surprised to see it go around so late, but it can happen. I mean, I didn't see what was in the pack beforehand, so it's hard to make an assessment on that.
It is, but then we do see it being passed on as well. So be interesting to see if the next player picks the double guts. Um,
We do see Weiss on
going
Ice
for
getting into a judge here over the Tantalizer, over the Cynthia and Caitlyn, over the Ball Guy, and the Holland's Fossil,
and the Iris.
and the
People
Iris.
sleep on Iris. This card is so good. Doing 10 more damage for each prize card your opponent's taken. That can just win you the game. If they've taken 4 or 5 prize cards, you can just take a crucial knockout, and the tempo swing is incredible. I don't see people pick this card highly enough.
Yeah, honestly, I think Iris is. I mean, Iris is obviously better than like Black Belt. I think it's depending on the situation, it can be better than Kukui as well. So it's. I mean, it's a pretty high tier damage mod, and I think in like a mid power cube like this, like an extra 10, even extra 30, and on can be a big knockout. That Iris, is I feel like Iris you're gonna see in the winning list. Like Iris has such a good way of giving you comebacks and also good ways of shutting your opponent out too, just because if you can reach past the knockout they weren't expecting you to do, um that's usually a good sign you're going to win the game.
Yes. Especially when it's open deck list. Your opponent always has to be thinking, oh, what if they have Iris here?
Right.
Do I go for this play? Um, you have to play so differently when your opponent has cards like Iris. Also, the Giovanni scheme we see in the pack here. Very powerful cards.
Yeah, I think also in this cube you have access to transceiver, so you can transceiver into Iris as well, so you have a lot higher options too to even find it. So yeah,
Yes.
I think over the hand disruption, I think Iris would have been great, especially because Kabutops has already a really efficient attack, and then you can make it even more efficient with it with the extra reaching power.
Yeah. I don't dislike the judge though. He has got
Mm-hmm.
the Porygon 2 backup. So he's going to draw out of that shuffle draw 4 very easily, and the disruption is nice.
True, very true.
So both solid picks, sure, but don't sleep on Iris.
Right.
Iris is great.
The main takeaway: don't sleep on Iris. Um, I don't see a lot for him in this pack. Maybe the Pokemon Contest Center Hall, but I don't. Not much in here. It's very.
It's definitely not the contest hall because all those basics are fossil.
Oh, you're right. So that's not even
They
helpful.
cannot search. um, Although it could be hate drafting it. This pack is bad for. Well, he's eyeing up the Registeel here. Just needs a single metal energy to fulfill that attack cost, and then 2 colorless. So it could be splashed in, but I don't think it's that strong for this deck. Registeel's really just in here. For one, its attack lets you attach an energy from your discard pile to itself, and discard an energy from itself. So it's good for fishing out the special metal energies if they make their way in your discard pile. And the power Regiheal, you can discard 2 cards to remove 3 damage counters from itself. So that's super nice for Archie's or Maxie's focus decks. Being able to get down to that last card in hand to actually play that supporter.
Right.
Just more support for that there.
We do see the Dome
And the Dome
Fossil cut
Fossil
back.
wheels.
Yeah, it's not very surprising, I guess, because as we've seen before, the Kabutops line is pretty much untouched at this point.
Yep. And it looks like Weiss has all 4 Dome Fossil and both Old Amber, so he's got all 6. Um, which is great. He just needs to see the other Kabutops now. Which I don't think anyone has. Let me just check. I'm not seeing the other Kabutops, so it should come up in the last couple of packs. So we've only got 1 pack after this pack, so
Yeah.
it's going to be a last pack pickup.
I do want to talk about. Let's take a second to talk about the Aggron in this fact, the double Lariat. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the one card that can knock out I think everything in the cube in one hit, right?
It knocks out everything apart from Wolraine EX and Typhlosion EX.
Oh right, forget about Typhlosion.
Actually, it does knock out Wolraine
Yeah, because
EX.
it's
I
weak to
take that
metal.
back because of weakness.
Yep,
So just Typhlosion EX.
I forgot about
Um,
Typhlosion EX.
but yeah, 140 damage is insane. Um, that is so much damage, but you do need 5 energy to pull
Right.
that off. Um, but its first attack is also okay.
Yeah.
The Retaliate, flip coin of heads, you do 10 damage for each damage counter on Aggron. That can be super annoying if you just put your Aggron in the active, and then, I don't know, they swing into it for 70 damage, and then you just hit them back for 70 damage, and it's a useful attack.
Yeah, I think if you ever can build up into the double Lariat too, like if you have access to DCE, even like double Rainbow, because doing 130 is still pretty good. Um,
Yes, it's very good.
just a card I wanted to point out, and because I feel like it's going to get passed around, but if you can find a way to
Hmm.
accelerate with like Crush Draw, I mean, just being able to, if this thing is just left in the active, not contested by anything, it's going to get through quite a few price cards with just hitting
Yeah.
like the most ridiculous numbers. But it should. I mean, 5 energies is a lot, so the payoff is
Hmm.
worth the effort, I suppose.
Yeah. There's a few tanking sort of strategies you can do with it. There's a healing field stadium in this cube. Once during your turn, you flip a coin of heads, remove 2 damage counters from your active Pokemon. So that effect's going to be live for both players. But obviously, if you're doing 140 damage, you don't care if they have that effect in play, and you're going to be healing 2 damage counters every turn. There's some special metal energy, so you can start reducing the damage you're taking. And there's a Cherrim that also heals 10 damage counter from your active every turn. So I think if you really built around it, you could have this Aggron that's doing 140 damage every turn, and effectively healing 30 a turn and taking 20 less a turn, which sounds terrifying to play against if you manage to pull that off.
Yeah, yeah, something you would not want to have
Um,
to face against.
no, because it will one-shot you every single time, and you will not be able to kill it in 1 attack, 2 attacks. It will take about 3 attacks to get through that.
Yeah,
Um, how tanky you can make it. But that's like Dreamer setup.
right. That's like if something had to go very well, but if you ever got there, you.
Yeah, you deserve to be there if you've got the 5
Yeah.
energy and all the support for it. So
I haven't been commenting too much on Jared Strap, but I have been watching. It is pretty much he's been getting into Kabutops and finding a lot more just consistency to go along. So I guess this is
hmm
probably a good time to check in with everybody else and see where all the drafts are going. So we'll just go to the right and then work our way back around. So going with Prowox, um, we do see quite a bit of. Well, we see a few things. So we do see more of the Malamar line fleshed out. We know they picked up that Umbreon EX early. I wonder. I didn't see if they got any Jolteon. Oh, actually, they got Jolteon EX, and I think they had the undeveloped Jolteon before. Um, but do they have any EVs? They have one EV. So, unless they can find a few more, that's not looking like it's gonna. I actually don't know how they've been
hmm
passed around. Um, yeah, the Mischievous they have the Dark Spell. Um, Mischievous, the damage pinging one, as well as trying to read what this one does. Damage. They have a lot of Mismagius. They have two Mismagius as well. They have one Magical Trans and then one. What's this? Um, Psybeam for 60 Hippo coins. Confusion. Um,
Yeah,
so they got quite a
he's got some. It's kind of spread a bit of everything in this deck. Um, no Thunder Mountain, which is surprising because we did see that card go quite late. And that would work quite nicely with the Jolteons, the Zapdos, and the Raikou in here.
they did get double
He has
speed.
got. They do have double speed. They also have both the Maxis targets in Claydol and Nidoking, and he has, or they have, one Maxis. So might be looking for some of that. I also see two Aerodactyls, one with Primal Claw. Similar to Shiftry EX, whenever your opponent's Pokemon uses a Pokepower, you put 2 damage counters. And the other Aerodactyl with Ancient Scream, where all your Pokemon's attacks do 10 more damage. And there's 2 Holon fossils that have been picked up, so very easy to get those into play. And also the Typhlosion line. So I hope they realize that the Fire Recharge Typhlosion only accelerates to Fire Pokemon.
Yeah, that is the
Uh,
stipulation for sure.
and that is a last pick Thunder Mountain. I was just talking
Wow. So it worked. It
about
ended up working out.
that. Definitely wants to get at least one more EV,
Yes.
probably 2 more, so we can run the Umbreon, the Jolteon. That would be really nice. Has managed to get all 4 Malamar, so a lot of choice with this deck. In terms of the Pokemon line, I guess less choice in terms of supporters. That's sort of the payoff you have there for prioritizing so many different Pokemon.
Yeah, I think out of these last packs, they are going to need EVs, which we do see one, and supporters. Although having three
I
of
think
the evolutions is nice here.
mhm. I think you're happy to let the Eevee wheel. I
Yeah,
think that comfortably wheels, and then you've got 3 of them.
yeah,
Um, Honestly, Bill, Erica are really good consistency pieces that this deck needs. Um,
yeah. I could definitely see like something like an Erica's here, just to draw three. Um, even if your opponent does get to draw, you have so many other options and ways to utilize. Like he's got copies of N, so you can punish that. Um, got a copy of Ace Trainer as well, so like you can combo off the Ericas. He actually already has one Ericas.
hmm.
I can almost see the
I
Volkner
don't hate
actually.
the Evo search is quite good.
Yeah,
Volkner would also be a good pick. Volkner is very nice, being able to search out any item you need.
yeah, dual ball, quick
Um,
ball. But I guess and I don't know if I saw that many like evolution search. I see dual
yes,
ball and
it
quick
doesn't have.
ball.
They don't have any items that search for evolutions, so I
Yeah,
guess Evo Instance makes sense.
Zeo it seems like a must grab. Just have the search. But yeah, so kind of interested to see like where if they get if they could find another EV or two. I think you're right. 3 EVs would be really nice here. Then they'd have a really solid lightning engine with the Thunder Mountains and the double speed.
Definitely.
So moving on over.
That is over to blue. Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at Blue's tab. I know he was fighting Zach for those Walreins, but he also was looking at Lantern, and we do see yeah, got 3 of the lanterns. At least from what I can see, he might have more on the bottom. Um,
Yeah, we've got 3 lanterns and 3 Starmie. Um, I'm surprised that blue hasn't picked up the Tentacruel line. There's one in his pack right now, actually. Um, that combos super nicely with the lanterns. So for those of you who don't know, it's got the Tentacle Strike attack. The no energy, you search your opponent's discard pile for 2 energy cards and attach them wherever you like to your opponent's Pokemon, and you do 20 damage for each energy you attached in this way. So the reason why that's so nice with Lantern is Lantern's got a 1 energy 1 light energy on them. So you can spend a couple of turns with the Tentacruel, making sure all of your opponent's Pokemon have an energy on them. And then suddenly you have this Lantern that does 30 damage to your entire opponent's board.
oh, that's awesome. That sounds
Um,
like a nuts deck.
it's super good. Obviously, it takes a while to get to that point,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I would like to see him experiment with that. But just valuing the consistency with Dual Bore here, it's never wrong to have Pokemon Fan Club on an item, I guess.
Yeah, I do want to touch on that tentacle idea. I think it's really honestly something I hadn't thought of because just looking at the tentacle strike being able to combo with that lantern. I think that's really interesting just because you are able to. You think you're helping them by attaching them, but you're really setting up just really insane spread card. Especially because you're already softening up the Pokemon with tentacle strike, so you're able to get damage in play, and then by the time they knock out the
Mhm.
tentacle, it's time to go in with lantern, and for
Yeah.
one energy, you're just doing so much.
And maybe he didn't pick it up because he didn't have any tentacle, and there are two tentacle in the pack,
Yep.
which is a bit unfortunate. It's a 2/3 line of tentacruel, so it is a bit hard to get into. But we do see the Sabrina's Psychic Control Pocket here, which basically just copies an item effect in your opponent's discard pile. So that's super versatile. You can get back switches, computer search, double gust, reserve ticket, dual ball, timer ball. Very powerful card later into the game when your opponent's discard piles. And there's the third tentacle. Sorry, my mind's blown that we've seen all three tentacle in the last pack.
Yeah, not really what I was expecting. It's them all kind of just get unpacked in the last go around. But I think Tentacle's probably one of the sleepers, honestly. But now that you've explained it to me, and hopefully anyone listening to this now has a better idea on the uses that card could have, I think could definitely, hopefully, see more of that come up in the Cube League, especially next week.
I am actually worried it's a bit too strong, but hopefully we'll see.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
have to see.
we'll see.
Um,
If no one manages to test it before next weekend, it might have to go in fear of being too strong. But, hopefully not. Hopefully someone gives that a shot.
yeah. So we do see a Maxie's in here as well as another unknown Y. I don't think we see anyone really trying to build with unknown Y.
Yeah.
Um,
There's the Y and the Miss Magius right next to it
yeah,
though, so a bit unfortunate. They pair super nicely together. Even in a deck like Aggron, we're talking about that 140 damage attack. It requires three of those energy are colorless energy. And this is a really low level, low to the ground energy acceleration engine. It's just a stage one and a basic, and you're accelerating every turn, um, which is cool.
yeah. I think that's like a really cool engine just because you can accelerate and then move on. So then, like we were saying with the Aggron, like you said, it makes those high energy costs feasible. And you compare it with stuff like Castform as well, and basically just cheat it out like a double colorless.
Hmm. So we do see the second primal side Kabutops here, gonna make its way over to White Sun Ice. Nothing too much to say for Blue's draft here, so should we move on to Vent?
Sure. Vince actually ghost drafting the last part of this draft as we did have to have someone who left, which is fine. Vince just carrying on the fire deck here. They did pick up one of the Jolteons, but we did see multiple EVs coming out towards Powerwalk, so hoping to get access to those. We were seeing a pretty full fledged Arcanine here. Um, Arcanine EX, the other two. Um, Taking a second to look at the supporters and item counts, which is usually the thing I look at after I see a ton of Pokemon. Um,
There are 9 items and 13 supporters.
yeah.
But I will say those items are very, very high quality items. Things like Nest Ball, Level Ball, X Transceiver,
Oh
all
yeah.
great items to have.
Yeah, I would say that's some pretty great cards here. Um, it looks like that. It looks like hopefully I keep seeing these EVs coming through for Power Walks. Hopefully that comes through and he's able to build out.
Hopefully, yes.
So I've seen two EVs. The one he passed, in the first pack he unpacked, and then the one that I just saw come through. So hopefully that's good news
Mhm.
because we see the other Jolteon here in Vent's tab, but I don't think he's that interested in it. But oh no, I cursed it. Oh no, he deselected.
He has got the 1/1 Cherrim line in here with Sunny Day. which makes all your grass and fire Pokemon do 10 more damage. So that can be handy with the Arcanine line, just boosting that damage up there.
I feel like I would have taken the scheme here, just because like Arcanine plus 20.
He is taking the Eevee.
Maybe this since
I
there's
guess he just really values. Which one is that? The undeveloped Jolteon.
yeah.
That is a good attack, to be fair. Even just quick attack is 1 energy 40, which is really strong.
Yep. So hopefully Power is able to get. Actually, I'm just gonna peep into that tab really quick and see if they found. They actually they have 3 EVs now. So
Okay, so not the end of the world for
yeah.
them.
Okay, so I'm gonna move over to Zach Kreckler and see where their draft was heading here. It looks like they have 2 battle compressors already. Picking up a ball guy right now.
Yeah. Interesting that there's no Night Teleporter. Because he is going for double Archie's Ace in the Hole. Night Teleporter is the card to make that work.
Right.
Um, doesn't have Reggie Ice, which has got a good way of discarding cards from hand, or the Reggie Steel, or a Lunatone. They're all good basics for discarding cards in your hand. So we'll have to see how successful this Archie's sort of build will be.
Yeah, I'm trying to look to see what other things maybe he has to leverage it. We do see 4 Walrein. So I believe he just maybe missed 1 Gathering Ice. Is what I'm seeing maybe. But he was able to pick up a Support Navigation Lapras, which can be, we saw Tapu Lele in Archie's decks before. Like that's just a nice way to search it out really quickly. But yeah, it looks like there's pretty much just like a lot of pretty much just trying to, I guess, Archie's as much as he can. He has these double Archies. Yes, that's the Blastoise. Is there's another target, right, for Archies in this cube?
He's got there's the Blastoise and there's a Watercourse Swampert.
Which I think someone
Which
else
someone else
has.
must have.
I think Mysterious
Yes.
Player has it, if I remember.
Doesn't look like it. Don't know who has it. It's actually Weiss.
Oh,
Nice.
White's Nice has it. Okay.
But he won't be able to play it.
No.
No
No.
Archies.
But maybe we could also just see. I mean, Zach's deck could also just be mostly just like a Walrein deck that can't Archies, which is nice.
Yeah, you don't have to have it completely revolved around the Archies.
Yeah.
Interestingly, he's got 3 Aggron. So maybe he was trying to get like a Crush Draw Aggron deck going,
Or
but
he could be hate drafting it.
or it could be hate draft. Yeah, that's probably the more likely reason, right?
Since that's one of
Wolverine's
the
being made
only
so
cards
metal.
that can knock out Walrein EX is something that knocks it out with weakness. So then he's able to take more advantage of the tankiness of the Walreins.
But they definitely work together, getting the energy on the Aggron.
Oh,
And then
for
you've got this
sure.
sort of weakness triangle as well, where the Aggron's weak to fire, but then all the fire cards are weak to water. So that
Oh
gives you a
yeah,
good
you're
matchup
right.
there.
So he can synergize them.
And he does pick up a Mismagius, no Misdreavus to go with that. But he has an Unknown Y already, so would be interesting to see if he manages to find a Misdreavus at the end, and if that's worth slotting in.
Right, and then he can use more of the more of a toolboxy strategy than before.
Yeah.
Moving off across the table, Mysterious Player, who we started with. We see pretty much a full shifting line. I see 4. I know there are 5. So I mean they got looks like one of
Missing, yeah, missing 1 Unlucky Wind, which I think Zach picked up earlier.
yeah he did.
I remember him picking that. But there is a Misdreavus being passed to Zach, so it'd be interesting to see if he takes that.
And the Dark Spell
But
one
yes,
too, which is great.
definitely. Oh yeah, that too. Definitely on Shiftry here. Just Shiftry and nothing else.
Yeah, it seems to be pretty much relying on the ability of the Unlucky Wind. But I think the Shifties have a lot of nice attacks that um
Hmm.
I don't necessarily just like a deck built around them. And he's got, let's see, we got, yeah, Power Circulus, Duckhead, you got Duckhead EX. I don't think he find a energy draw one. I don't think he did, but that's okay. End up taking the Mischievous
Nice.
here, so I'm not passing the Mischievous to sack,
Okay.
unfortunately.
I mean, that Mischievous is actually quite nice. When it's in the active, you can flip a coin of heads, put one damage counter on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Um, so that's just a useful card to have in any deck, especially if you have a tool to give it free retreat or something.
Yeah, so it gives me just a nice
Can
pivot.
help set up. Yeah, for sure.
So moving
Mm.
forward, we have ENW, who was drafting a lot of Golbat before, and we haven't seen any Golbat pieces around the table, so I'm betting they were taking them. um,
There's a lot of Crobat here, which is cool.
yeah,
All 5 Crobats.
Crobat's I think one of my favorite lines in this cube, just because you have so many different ways you can play it. You can play it like a spread deck. You can play it with the there's a lot of like disruption effects with the flutter trick and the cross attack also. You can utilize with like poison confusion. Just some like, and they also have like really good stage ones.
Hmm.
So huge fan of the
I
Golbat
really like
line.
Crobat as well. Being able to boost it up with the Cherrim as well. You see he's
Yeah, that's a
got
good strat.
one Cherrim at Sunny Day, just for a bit more boost in damage. He's got the Skarmory EX, like you mentioned before. If they retreat, they take 3 damage counters, which is super strong when you're poisoning them and they want to retreat. He's also got a Forest of Giant Plants to get into those Crobats very quickly. And one of these Crobats has a Flutter Trick attack, which colorless energy does 20 damage. And you flip a coin of heads, you can look at your opponent's hand and discard a card there, which doesn't sound that great, but if you can Forest of Giant Plants and do that turn 1 and just discard your opponent's, I don't know, stage 2 attacker or their supporter card or something, that can just win you the game. Um, it's very powerful,
Yeah,
or at least I think it is.
I that's one of the cards I was looking at a lot, and I think that if that can be, if you build it right, it can be a very strong deck.
Yeah. Crobat's also Cessation Crystal viable.
Right.
Doesn't rely on it that much. Super good with Double Gust if your whole board's got a free retreat and you can just be trapping things in the active, discarding cards from their hand. It's got a bit of spread in there. It's really cool.
Yeah. I guess to move right along here, we knew Weiss and Ice was crafting a lot of Kabutops, and we do see more of that here. Picking up a Water Kabuto actually in the last second to last pick here. I don't think we need to spend that long looking at their tab. They had a lot of really it was just draw support was what I was wanting to see. We
Mhm.
see they did pick up the Giovanni scheme. Actually, that came back around. That's actually incredible. Um, and then Judge. I
Looking strong for the fossil deck. This is like an
yeah.
ideal fossil draft, I'd say.
I think my only issue is that they just don't have a lot of non-conditional draw, which is okay. That's just something I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of. Something like Cynthia,
Hmm.
like the Alima's nice, but since you only can, you're guaranteeing your opponent draws 6 at the same time. So I mean, it's not like you won't play it, but something like a Cynthia
It's not,
would, yeah,
yeah,
something like a Cynthia or
I'm with you on that
Birch
one.
would have been really nice here. But they looks like they have a really consistent deck though. Um, Found pretty much everything. It's like the Fossil Dream actually.
It's the fossil dream. When you get all the fossils, both the Aerodactyls that search out the fossils.
Right.
How many Holons? He's only got one, two Holon fossils, so that might be the downfall. Because you really want a Holon fossil to get your Kabuto in play. You don't want to be wasting your Dome fossils to get into that.
Yeah. Um,
But it's not the end of the world if you have to
no.
spend a fossil to get there, as long as you get there.
Yeah, and I mean, like having so many other fossils available to you, like he'll be able to use at least Primal Scythe for a few turns. And that might just be all he needs.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And super aggro strategy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Moving over to
didn't pick up. Yep, let's go to Proax.
um Promox here. I know they were drafting. They had a few options, and it looks like they finished up. They have 4 EVs, so they can actually play the Jolteons with the Umbreon, and they did have double speed, um, and the Thunder Mountain. So I can see a lightning deck coming out of here. What do you think?
Definitely looks like a Lightning Malamar deck. Just an interesting combination. Um, should be good to see. The Cursed Eyes Absol EX has a super powerful Poké power. Where you can move 3 damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another. I like to see that. And then he's got this weird sort of fighting package where he's got a 2/2 Colon Fossil Aerodactyl line, and there's a 2/2 Maxie's Ball Trick with Claydol Nidoking, which is also super interesting. I'd imagine this Miss Magius sort of package is going to be cut.
Yeah,
Towards the bottom, but it's a solid draft.
yeah, I think they got
I
like
haven't
quite a
buffed.
bit of like I think they buffed out a lot of the consistency they were looking for towards the end.
Hmm. Yes, and Prox has 2 Night Teleporter for their Maxies, so going to be able to pull that off very consistently, providing they can get the Claydol or Nidoking into the discard pile.
And then I guess the last person we need to look at is Blue. Um, who we might started with Blue actually. Yeah, I think Blue's draft hasn't really changed, but they did find a Thunder Mountain, which is great. But they're looking at playing the Starmies with the Lanterns, and I don't think they found any of the. I don't think they ended up taking any of the Tentacruels, but that would have been really cool.
Hmm. That would have been really cool. I'm not seeing any acceleration here, which I think will be the downfall of this deck.
Yeah, because you really do need it for those to
You
utilize the
do.
Lanterns
I
attacks
remember
as well as the Starmies.
there's a there's a mana fee in this cube where you flip 3 coins, and for each head you can attach a water from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. And that was super late going into one of the packs, and it's interesting that Blue didn't pick that up. That would have been a nice option to have. Or even just the Tentacruels that came in the last pack. You definitely could have got on those. But the deck is incredibly consistent. I think Blue might have the best item base and supporter base out of everyone.
Yeah, I've already seen 2 Birches, two Cynthia Caitlyn. Okay, 2 Double Gus. Yeah, they got a lot of just like streamline
Um,
comp search, and then we got
so
Colress. They picked up the Iris, which is nice.
and Nessa, which is nice.
Oh yeah, this is
Yeah,
very good.
I think the downfall is your lines aren't going to do that much without acceleration.
Yeah,
Um, and there are accelerating options. So sad to see that go. But double energy draw Delcatty as well sticks crazy.
yeah.
With the Starmie, where once per turn you can put a water from discard pile to hand.
I can see him getting a lot of use out of Core Flash actually with the Starmie that does 50 to a Pokemon with Poke Powers, Poke Bodies while he sets up more energies for stuff like Lantern. I can see that being pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Just because
Yeah,
it's a
that
1 energy
Starmie's
cost.
super good. I actually think Starmie is a really good line, but I think people undervalue it. And the Cosmic Cyclone one, which there's 2 of, you do need to build around that card, whereas the other 2 can slot into quite a few different decks, I'd say.
So out of what we've seen here, which deck are you the most excited about in the tournament?
Most excited about from this draft. Let me just flick through them again. Um, hmm. Let's Let's have a look. This is a good question. I think I'm ready to see some fossils. I think Weiss on Ice's Kabutops deck. I'm interested to see how that works out for him.
Yeah, I could see that.
Um, got a very strong list,
I feel
that's
like,
for sure.
feel like you don't often see fossils come together the way that it did for Ice on Ice, where you have your engine pretty much built out, and in this
Hmm.
cube particularly, it can ramp so fast that it's already above
It's
average where it would usually be for fossils.
definitely. I think it's good. It's just interesting to seeing cards like Pokemon Collector being cut from his deck here.
Yeah,
Because there's so many fossils, and I'll be interested to see what basic Pokemon he does end up running. I know he's got the Porygon 2 line, but you can't play a deck with just the Porygon, which are only basic. So
right. Because
um,
it's just a recipe for disaster there.
yeah. Other interesting decks. Um, I think Zach's deck with the Walrein line, that's going to be interesting. I'm interested to see if he keeps the unknowns in there as attacking options. Um, sort of as payoffs for the Crestro.
Right.
And the Togepi, I want to see that Togepi do something.
I do too. That Togepi, especially with the engine that he has, being able to accelerate to it, could definitely come up. It would be really nice to see like a big Togepi knockout.
That would be super cool.
Any final thoughts before we sign it off here?
Um, no, no, it's interesting to see what everyone sort of went for.
Yeah, like their
Um,
their picks and stuff.
yeah, people definitely value cards differently to each other. Um, I know I value cards very differently to other people, but it just makes for an interesting draft every time.
Yeah,
And I do like um, that there are a lot of decisions to be made. I think anyway in this cube, it's not sort of, oh, that's the only double gust in the cube, I have to take it now, sort of thing. We've seen like pick 8 cessation crystals and things, which
right.
is
It's
unheard of most of
crazy.
the time.
Oh man,
Um,
but it can happen.
um, yeah. What do you have to say about what we've seen today?
Honestly, like I like seeing how the card values change just because of the coin flip rule. So like cards like Ultra Ball like become less good to something like a Pokeball, which is very amusing. And I think I as we see this compared to next week's draft, I think we're going to see players beginning to learn more about the cube as stuff like this is happening and players are experiencing this cube more. There's like a meta that's evolving. So really what I'm interested in seeing is how this draft compares to next week when we do this for Cube League. How that changes, how
Hmm.
people prioritize cards, because it's a constantly a learning process when you're cubing. You're always learning new things because each cube is so different. So this is definitely in line with that kind of stuff.
Yes, definitely. And I'm just looking through the cube list now, and we have talked extensively about every single line in there. Haven't touched on Fortress too much, but apart from that, everything's been talked about, which I think is pretty cool.
I can talk about Fortress. In 2 words, it's good. uh, this is a nice spread card, but it doesn't. You need to have like something like DZE or a way to keep it alive for a few turns. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing what these decks are gonna look at. We're gonna come back to these games in around 30 minutes, around quarter till 6. So Al, thanks for joining us here. I know it's getting late where you're at, so I'm sure you're off to bed soon. But thank you for joining us for the draft. It was a pleasure having you.
No, that's great. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to come and talk about my cube a bit. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. And if anyone wants to see Al's Cubes list, just exclamation point Koga. You can find it on Cube Koga, the website he actually made. So huge shout outs to Al. We're gonna cut to a break here. We'll be back in about 30 minutes for round one, so stick around.